Arrogant arrival. Supreme Commander Zorgax of the Cleveri Dominion stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Destructor, as it loomed over the seemingly primitive human colony on Kepler 186F. He sneered at the display showing the tiny human outpost, with its meager defenses and rudimentary structures. "Look at these pathetic creatures," Zorgax scoffed to his second-in-command, Captain Thrillock. "They dare to establish a foothold in Cleveri space with their feeble technology. We shall make an example of them to discourage any other upstarts from challenging our supremacy." Thrillock chuckled darkly. "Indeed, Commander. These humans will rue the day they caught the attention of the mighty Cleveri. Shall I give the order to attack?" Zorgax held up a clawed hand. "Not yet. First, I want to see the look of terror on their faces when they realize the futility of their situation. Open a communication channel." Moments later, a holoscreen shimmered to life, revealing a grizzled human male in a simple uniform. The man's eyes widened as he took in the sight of the imposing Cleveri bridge and its reptilian occupants. "Greetings, human," Zorgax said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I am Supreme Commander Zorgax of the Cleveri Dominion. You have trespassed on our territory and must now face the consequences. Surrender immediately, and I may show mercy." To Zorgax's surprise, the human responded with a defiant glare. "I'm Captain Marcus Reynolds of the Terran Defense Force. We have every right to establish a colony here under galactic law. We will not surrender to your bullying tactics." Zorgax let out a rasping laugh. "You fool. Your primitive weapons are no match for the might of the Cleveri. We will crush you like insects beneath our boots." Captain Reynolds remained unfazed. "We'll see about that, Commander. Humans are not to be underestimated." With a snarl, Zorgax terminated the communication. He turned to Thrillock, his eyes blazing with anger. "Prepare the invasion force. We will teach these insolent humans a lesson they won't soon forget." Underestimated underdogs. As the Cleveri dropships descended upon the human colony, Captain Reynolds rallied his small force of Terran soldiers. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had a secret weapon: human ingenuity and determination. "Listen up, people," Reynolds barked. "The Cleveri think they can steamroll over us because we're just a tiny outpost on the frontier. But we're going to show them what humans are made of. We've got some tricks up our sleeves that will give those scaly bastards a run for their money." The soldiers nodded grimly, checking their weapons and steeling themselves for the impending battle. They had trained extensively in guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare, knowing that they could not win a head-on confrontation with the technologically superior Cleveri. As the first wave of Cleveri soldiers stormed the colony's perimeter, they were met with a hail of plasma fire from carefully concealed defensive positions. The humans had utilized the colony's terrain to their advantage, setting up ambushes and choke points that funneled the Cleveri into kill zones. Zorgax watched the battle unfold from orbit, growing increasingly frustrated as his troops struggled to make headway against the entrenched humans. He pounded a fist on the arm of his command chair. "How can this be?" he snarled. "They're just primitives with outdated weapons. Why haven't we crushed them yet?" Captain Thrillock studied the tactical display, a puzzled frown on his scaly face. "Their tactics are unconventional, Commander. They're using the environment and guerrilla strategies to negate our numerical and technological advantages." Zorgax's eyes narrowed. "Then we shall adapt our own tactics. Send in the heavy armor and the air support. We'll flatten their defenses and teach them the folly of resisting the Cleveri." On the ground, Captain Reynolds grinned fiercely as he saw the Cleveri assault falter. "That's it, people," he shouted over the comm. "We're giving them a bloody nose. Keep up the pressure and show them what human grit looks like." The battle raged on, the humans fighting with tenacity and cunning against the increasingly frustrated Cleveri invaders. But Reynolds knew this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come. Desperate measures. Supreme Commander Zorgax slammed a fist onto the console, his rage boiling over as he watched his forces being systematically picked apart by the human defenders. The Cleveri had thrown everything they had at the colony. Heavy armor, air support, even orbital bombardment. But the humans always seemed to slip away at the last moment, only to reappear and strike at the Cleveri's vulnerabilities. "This is unacceptable," Zorgax roared. "We are the mighty Cleveri Dominion. We have conquered countless worlds and crushed civilizations far more advanced than these pitiful humans. How can they continue to defy us?" Captain Thrillock, nursing a wound from a human sniper's lucky shot, shook his head in disbelief. "Their tactics are like nothing we've ever faced before, Commander. They use the terrain, the weather, even our own weapons against us. It's as if they have an innate understanding of warfare that goes beyond mere technology." Zorgax's eyes narrowed. "Then we must resort to more drastic measures. Prepare the bio-weepo. Hazards will be deployed on the main colony. We will flush them out like the vermin they are." On the surface, Captain Reynolds and his battered but unbroken soldiers hunkered down in a hidden bunker, plotting their next move. They had inflicted heavy casualties on the Cleveri, but they knew their luck couldn't hold out forever. "Captain, we've intercepted Cleveri transmissions," Sergeant Hawkins reported grimly. "They're planning to unleash some kind of bioweapon on the colony. They're going to wipe out the civilians to get to us." Reynolds' face hardened. "Like hell they will. We've got to stop them, no matter the cost. Hawkins, gather a strike team. We're going to infiltrate their command ship and take out that bioweapon before they can deploy it." The soldiers exchanged glances, knowing the odds of success were slim. But they also knew that they had sworn an oath to protect the innocent, even at the cost of their own lives. As the strike team prepared for their desperate mission, Reynolds addressed his troops one last time. "I won't lie to you. This is a suicide mission. But if we don't stop the Cleveri here and now, they'll just keep coming, and more innocent lives will be lost. We're the only thing standing between them and total annihilation. So let's show them what humans are made of. Let's give them hell." The soldiers responded with a resounding battle cry, ready to lay down their lives for the greater good. They knew that even if they fell, their sacrifice would inspire others to take up the fight. For that was the true strength of humanity, the willingness to stand up against tyranny, no matter the odds. Turning the tide. The human strike team, led by Captain Reynolds and Sergeant Hawkins, managed to infiltrate the Cleveri command ship using a captured dropship and stolen armor. They moved silently through the dimly lit corridors, dispatching any Cleveri soldiers they encountered with ruthless efficiency. As they approached the bioweapons lab, Reynolds held up a fist, signaling the team to halt. He peered around the corner, spotting two heavily armed Cleveri guards standing watch outside the reinforced doors. "Hawkins, you and I will take out the guards," Reynolds whispered. "The rest of you, be ready to breach the lab on my signal." With a nod, Hawkins readied her plasma rifle. They both knew that the success of their mission hinged on the element of surprise. In a blur of motion, Reynolds and Hawkins rounded the corner, their weapons blazing. The Cleveri guards fell before they could even raise their own rifles, caught completely off guard by the sudden attack. "Breach! Breach!" Reynolds shouted, and the rest of the team surged forward, planting explosive charges on the lab doors. Moments later, the doors blew inward, and the humans stormed inside, guns at the ready. What they found inside the lab made even the battle-hardened soldiers pause in shock. Row upon row of containment tanks filled the cavernous space, each one holding a swirling, sickly green liquid. In the center of the lab, a massive computer console hummed ominously, its screens displaying complex chemical formulas and simulations. "My God," Hawkins breathed. They were really going to do it. They were going to unleash this abomination on the colony. Reynolds' face was grim as he approached the console. "Not if we have anything to say about it. Hawkins, plant the charges. We're going to blow this place to hell." As Hawkins and the others set about rigging the lab with explosives, Reynolds accessed the console, his fingers flying over the alien controls. He had to find a way to neutralize the bioweapon, to make sure it could never be used again. Suddenly, an alarm blared throughout the ship, and the sound of running footsteps echoed in the corridors outside. The Cleveri had discovered their presence. "Captain, we got company," Hawkins yelled, taking up a defensive position near the door. Reynolds gritted his teeth, his eyes scanning the data on the screen. There, a weakness in the bioweapon's molecular structure. If he could just modify the formula. Plasma bolts zipped through the air as Cleveri soldiers poured into the lab, engaging the human strike team in a fierce firefight. Reynolds tuned out the chaos, his focus entirely on the task at hand. With a final, triumphant keystroke, he hit the execute command. The bioweapon's formula twisted and changed on the screen, rendering it inert. At the same moment, the containment tanks began to drain, the deadly liquid harmlessly dissolving. "It's done," Reynolds shouted over the din of battle. "The bioweapon is neutralized. Now let's get the hell out of here." The strike team fought their way back to their captured dropship, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. As they blasted free of the Cleveri ship, Hawkins detonated the charges they had planted, setting off a chain reaction that tore through the lab and the surrounding decks. From the bridge of the Destructor, Supreme Commander Orcs watched in disbelief as a series of explosions ripped through his ship's midsection. He slammed a fist down on the console, his rage and frustration boiling over. "How?" he snarled. "How could a handful of primitives do so much damage? What are these humans made of?" But even as he spoke, a new respect grudgingly formed in his mind. He had underestimated the humans, had dismissed them as weak and inferior. But now he began to see them in a new light, as a formidable foe, one that would not be conquered easily. On the surface of Kepler 186f, the human colonists cheered as they watched the Cleveri command ship listing in orbit, trailing smoke and debris. They knew that the battle was far from over, but for now, they had struck a blow for freedom and survival. And in the heart of every human, a flame of defiance burned brightly. They would never submit, never surrender, for they were the descendants of Earth, the inheritors of a legacy of courage and determination. They were human, and they would fight to their last breath. Unconventional allies. In the aftermath of the daring raid on the Cleveri command ship, Captain Reynolds and his team were hailed as heroes by the beleaguered colonists. But even as they celebrated their victory, Reynolds knew that the war was far from over. The Cleveri would regroup, would come back with even greater numbers and firepower. To have any hope of survival, the humans needed allies. And fast. Reynolds pored over the data they had managed to extract from the Cleveri computers during the raid, searching for any scrap of information that could help them turn the tide. As he scrolled through the files, one name kept popping up again and again: the Zixari. According to the Cleveri records, the Zixari were a technologically advanced species that had long resisted Cleveri aggression. They were masters of stealth and subterfuge, using their advanced cloaking technology to strike at the Cleveri from the shadows. Reynolds leaned back in his chair, a plan forming in his mind. If the humans could make contact with the Zixari, could convince them to join forces against their common enemy. It was a long shot, but it was the only chance they had. Reynolds gathered his team and a small group of volunteers, including the brilliant xenolinguist Dr. Amelia Chen. Using a captured Cleveri shuttle, they set course for the last known coordinates of a Zixari outpost, deep in the heart of a nebula. As they approached the swirling clouds of gas and dust, Reynolds ordered the pilot to broadcast a message on all frequencies, using the Zixari language that Dr. Chen had managed to decipher from the Cleveri records. "Attention Zixari forces," Reynolds spoke into the comm. "This is Captain Marcus Reynolds of the Terran Defense Force. We come in peace, seeking an alliance against the Cleveri Dominion. Please respond." For several tense moments, there was nothing but silence. Then, suddenly, a sleek, angular ship shimmered into existence directly in front of them, its cloaking field disengaging. Terran vessel, "This is Commander Zaxira of the Zixari Shadow Fleet." A melodic voice responded over the comm. "We have been monitoring your transmission. What proof do you offer of your intentions?" Reynolds took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. "Commander Zaxira, we have recently struck a blow against the Cleveri, infiltrating their command ship and neutralizing a bioweapon they intended to use against our colony. We believe that by working together, we can defeat the Cleveri and free both our peoples from their tyranny." There was a long pause. Then Zaxira spoke again, her voice tinged with cautious optimism. "Your actions speak to your courage and determination, Captain Reynolds. The Zixari have long sought an ally in our struggle against the Cleveri. If your words are true, then perhaps we have finally found one." Reynolds felt a surge of hope. "Then let us meet in person, Commander Zaxira, and forge this alliance between our peoples. Together, we will show the Cleveri the true strength of unity." As the Zixari ship led them deeper into the nebula, towards a hidden base filled with the most advanced technology the humans had ever seen, Reynolds knew that the tide was turning. The Cleveri had underestimated the humans, had dismissed them as primitives. But now, with the Zixari at their side, they would show the galaxy the true power of the human spirit. The power to adapt, to overcome, to forge victory from the very jaws of defeat. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Reynolds allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. The humans would not go quietly into the night. They would rage against the dying of the light, and they would prevail. United front. The alliance between the humans and the Zixari sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Never before had two species, so different in culture and technology, come together to face a common foe. But the desperate times called for desperate measures, and the human Zixari coalition was a force to be reckoned with. In the hidden Zixari base, human and Zixari scientists and engineers worked side by side, combining their knowledge and skills to create new weapons and defenses. Captain Reynolds and Commander Zaxira spent long hours in strategic meetings, planning their next moves against the Cleveri. The first joint operation was a resounding success. A combined fleet of human and Zixari ships, equipped with the latest stealth technology and advanced weaponry, struck at a key Cleveri supply line, cutting off vital resources to their frontline troops. The Cleveri were caught completely off guard, their defenses crumbling under the coordinated assault. Supreme Commander Zorgax was furious when he received the news of the defeat. He had never imagined that the humans would be able to find allies, let alone ones as formidable as the Zixari. He knew that he had to act quickly, to crush this alliance before it could gain any more momentum. Zorgax ordered his forces to launch a massive counterattack, targeting both human and Zixari colonies with overwhelming force. But the coalition was ready for him. Using a combination of human tactical ingenuity and Zixari stealth technology, the Allied forces were able to outmaneuver the Cleveri at every turn. Human strike teams launched daring raids deep behind enemy lines, sabotaging Cleveri infrastructure and sowing chaos in their ranks. Zixari infiltrators slipped past Cleveri defenses, gathering vital intelligence and disrupting their communications. On the front lines, human and Zixari soldiers fought side by side, their unique strengths complementing each other perfectly. The humans' fierce determination and adaptability paired seamlessly with the Zixari's lightning-fast reflexes and advanced technology. Together, they pushed the Cleveri back, liberating planet after planet from their brutal occupation. The once unstoppable Cleveri war machine began to falter, its losses mounting with each passing day. But Supreme Commander Zorgax was not one to admit defeat easily. With his back against the wall, he resorted to increasingly desperate tactics, using civilians as living shields and unleashing chemical weapons on populated areas. The coalition responded with righteous fury, redoubling their efforts to put an end to Zorgax's reign of terror. In a daring final assault, human and Zixari special forces breached the defenses of Zorgax's stronghold, fighting their way to the heart of his command center. There, in a climactic battle broadcast across the galaxy, Captain Reynolds and Commander Zaxira confronted Zorgax face to face. The once arrogant Cleveri leader was reduced to a snarling, cornered beast, lashing out with all the viciousness of a wounded predator. But even Zorgax's formidable skills were no match for the combined might of the human-Zixari alliance. In a stunning display of teamwork and bravery, Reynolds and Zaxira took down the tyrant, ending his brutal rule once and for all. As news of Zorgax's defeat spread, Cleveri resistance crumbled. One by one, their remaining forces laid down their arms, realizing the futility of continuing the fight. Across the galaxy, humans and Zixari celebrated their hard-won victory. The alliance that had started as a desperate gamble had proven to be the key to their salvation. Two species, once strangers, were now forged in the fires of war, their bond unbreakable. In the aftermath of the conflict, the human-Zixari alliance grew and prospered. Trade routes were established, cultural exchanges flourished, and a new era of peace and cooperation dawned. And at the center of it all, a statue was erected on the grounds of the first human-Zixari joint colony. It depicted Captain Reynolds and Commander Zaxira, standing side by side, their hands clasped in a gesture of unity and friendship, a testament to the power of cooperation, the strength of the human spirit, and the indelible truth that anything is possible when we stand together. A new dawn. Years had passed since the fall of the Cleveri Dominion, and the galaxy had entered a new age of peace and prosperity. The human-Zixari alliance, once forged in the crucible of war, had blossomed into a shining example of interspecies cooperation and mutual understanding. On the thriving metropolis of New Terra, a gleaming testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit, Captain Marcus Reynolds stood before a sea of eager faces. He had long since traded his battle-worn armor for the distinguished robes of a diplomat, his role now to foster the bonds of friendship between humanity and the myriad species they now called allies. "Friends," he began, his voice carrying across the vast auditorium. "Today we gather to celebrate not just the enduring partnership between humanity and the Zixari, but the countless other alliances and friendships we have forged in the years since the Cleveri War." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the diverse crowd, taking in the various alien faces that had become as familiar to him as his own. "When we first set out among the stars, we were but newcomers, awed by the vastness of the universe, and humbled by the realization of how small we truly were. But in the face of adversity, in the face of a foe that sought to crush us beneath their heel, we discovered something profound about ourselves." Reynolds' eyes sparkled with emotion as he continued. "We discovered that our greatest strength lies not in our technology, not in our weapons, but in our indomitable spirit, in our ability to adapt, to persevere, and to forge bonds of friendship and trust with those who were once strangers." He gestured to the Zixari delegation, seated in a place of honor near the front of the auditorium. "The Zixari were the first to stand with us, to lend us their strength when we needed it most. And in doing so, they taught us the true value of unity, of standing together in the face of darkness." Reynolds' voice grew more impassioned as he spoke, his words ringing with the conviction of a man who had seen the very best that sentient life had to offer. "Since then, we have reached out to countless other species, forging a tapestry of alliances that spans the galaxy. Each thread, each bond, is a testament to the power of cooperation, to the idea that we are stronger together than we ever could be apart." He spread his arms wide, as if to embrace the entire audience. "And so, my friends, let us continue to nurture these bonds. Let us continue to seek out new allies, new friends, and new opportunities to grow and learn from one another. For it is in our unity, in our diversity, that we find our greatest strength." As the auditorium erupted in applause, Reynolds felt a deep sense of pride and hope swell within his chest. The road had been long and hard, the sacrifices many, but looking out at the sea of faces before him, he knew that it had all been worth it. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors or tyrants, but as friends, as allies, and as beacons of hope in a galaxy that had once known only darkness. And as Reynolds stepped down from the podium, ready to embark on the next chapter of this grand adventure, he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they always had.